Algorithms and automation, these aren't new digital buzzwords. They've been around for a while now as the world forges ahead with the exciting possibilities of the fourth industrial revolution. But is South Africa's tech modem taking too long to boot up? Some University of Johannesburg academics think so. One of them, Professor Miriam Altman, is at the university's College of Business and Economics and joins us live now to discuss this further. Professor, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. The rate and scale of this revolution seems to me like it's unprecedented. It seems almost exponential. Why do you think South Africa isn't keeping up?
I'm not sure that South Africa is not keeping up. We're doing okay, certainly from an Africa perspective, and we're sort of up there with Mauritius and Egypt, according to Oxford. But, in every country, and certainly every developing country, is going through a process of change. So it's not something that happens automatically. I think what you're referring to is that there was a very useful study done by Professor Andrioni and Professor Fiona Tregena and team at UJ that surveyed a whole lot of companies in the country. And so, as you'd expect with any major technological change, it's uneven.
So where are we seeing good progress, great strides, and how do we expand the diffusion of this digital technology?
Yeah, well, let's first talk about what it is, because when we tend to mix up what these things are. We often talk about artificial intelligence, but that's kind of the endpoint and the most sophisticated part. I mean, you're talking about anything from, when you talk about digitalization and movement into the cloud, you're talking about anything from robotics and sensors and machine learning in operations to Internet of Things in operations, like machine-to-machine learning, but also the connection to the customer, the one that most of us are more familiar with. So, for example, like when you see location data, and that goes up to companies, cloud computing, big data analysis, and then you get to artificial intelligence. So what we're seeing is, if we talk about where it's happening and where it's not happening. Firstly, large firms obviously are much more prone to be adopting than small and medium-sized firms, that's for sure. Anyone who's been through the health system will know that the health system is way behind the curve, which is a real concern, particularly in COVID. Government, South Africa is again amongst the top 3 in Africa in relation to AI readiness in government, but we're way behind the curve in terms of where we could be and what it could be doing for us in terms of getting the cost of service delivery down and improving access. We've seen, and we've all experienced, huge strides in online retail and everything that goes around that. Some of it's old economy stuff around logistics, of course, the truck drivers and so on, has changed like night and day since last March in 2020. There's no doubt about that. In automotive, you've had huge introduction of robotics and digitization, but of course that's dominated by multinationals. On the other hand, the UJ study that I referred to found that the chemicals industry hasn't transformed, just by example.
Professor, when people hear the words that were coming out of your mouth, the different technologies, often there's a panic that the machines are coming to get our jobs. You speak of robotics in the auto industry, for example. But yeah. What's the reality of this technology coming into South Africa and being infused into the different industries you spoke of?
Well, the reality is that it's happening. The issue is that it's going to happen slower in a low growth economy like what we have. Which is a real concern. We definitely have to digitize. We definitely have to get with this program. If the economy is growing, we're going to be creating more jobs. The challenge that arises is most jobs globally are created in services industries. And if you go to even, say, airports and countries like Dubai and similar, you will see even automated cleaning. I've seen in the stores here now automated floor cleaners that just go around and clean the floor. I've used one overseas before, and so we've got to be thinking about whether we want to start introducing controls like what we have in petrol stations. So the reason we don't have self-service in petrol stations is that it's regulated. You can't having self-service in petrol stations is illegal in South Africa, and that's why you don't see it. So we may want to be thinking about, as much as we don't want to have more controls over industry, starting to think about agreeing that certain kinds of service activities, such as cashing out at retail, cleaning, and that kind of thing, stays in the domain of people delivering the service. But in terms of transforming manufacturing, it has to happen. We have to be getting to better optimization and higher productivity if we want to see the country grow.
Absolutely. Professor Altman, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. University of Johannesburg, Professor Miriam Altman, thank you so much for your views this morning.